Naldehra, a vast glade 23 kilometers from Shimla, was one of the favorites of the British rulers who came to the hills to spend their time during summers. The British used this place for camping, for games, picnic, moonlight dinner and for partying. The most powerful men of India, its viceroys, the army generals with veritable records of battle across the globe, in Africa, in Gibraltar, in India, walked on this turf surrounded by a grove of thick devdars and enjoyed the beauty of nature. Shimla district, covered with narrow valleys, steep slopes, forest trees, there is nothing like enchanting Naldehra. You feel so elated when you stand and look at this vast turf. Naldehra is distortion of the word Naldev, which is name of a local deity. He is believed to be the custodian of this vast, beautiful turf. Edward Burke, a celebrated writer of Shimla, records the impression of Edith Villiers, British aristocrat and wife of Viceroy Lord Lytton. She writes from Naldehra on June 16, 1828. She says, "I came here yesterday. This is a prettier camp than the last year, all amongst the trees, and I enjoy sitting out in the shades. For these are the last summer days as the monsoon has broken at Bombay and it is to arrive on the hills also. The moonlight at night is also lovely and we have dinner outside as well as other meals." She further says, Colonel Pomeroy Cawley, a private secretary of the Viceroy of India, came out last night and saw a leopard on the road, and my maid O.C. heard some of the servants saying they were chasing a bear last night. But this I don't believe, only it prevented O.C. from sleeping for night. One person who was in absolute love with the place was Viceroy George Curzon, Viceroy of India during 1899 and 1905. He has spent his time for weeks at a stretch here during the summers, spurning his majestic viceregal lodge and Shimla town. He cleared files camping here and communicated with his office across the valleys with heliograph. Heliograph is a signaling device by which sunlight is reflected in flashes from a movable mirror. Message was sent from Naldehra to the men and officials sitting in Shimla to communicate with him and comply to his direction. The place Naldehra gave Lord Curzon time to think of ideas and strategies to consolidate grip over the colony. Historians attribute carving of the 8-hole golf course at Naldehra in 1903 to the Viceroy Lord Curzon. Raja Bashin, an author on Shimla, says that the third daughter of Viceroy George Curzon was conceived at Naldehra in 1903 and she was born in England on March 20, 1904. Curzon christened his daughter as Alexander Naldehra after the place he loved so much. What was more, he named his villa, his house in England at Broadstairs Beach also as Naldehra. In fact, Mary Victoria Curzon, wife of the Viceroy, was enraptured when she arrived in Shimla for the first time. She had preceded her husband and arrived in Bombay and in Shimla before the arrival of the Viceroy and Governor General of India, Lord Curzon. She says, "The first view of Shimla amused me so much, the horses slipping off the hills and clinging like barnacles to the hilltops, and then our horse. A Minneapolis millionaire would revel in such a house. A look out of the window makes up for all, and I can live in this kind of house in this kind of valley for 5 years. Curzon, after his tenure, left India in November 1905 and his lady wife died in 1906. Edward Buck, a noted historian of Shimla, writing in 1904, says the golf course was then well laid out, but it was a tricky turf. Wooden club was used for playing golf in this place for playing the golf. Not more than 6 couples could play at a time, and it took about an hour for the players to complete one round of the ground. Some members had standing camps at Naldehra as the place was away from Shimla and the only means of conveyance movement from Shimla to Naldehra was either rickshaw or a horse. And then it took more than 3 hours to reach the place. Many of the players and the members of the British aristocracy and ruling elites stayed at night at Naldehra amidst woods to be able to play the golf next morning. Edward Buck mentions about a match between 8 generals and the rest of the people, civilian and maybe the bureaucrats. The chief of the British India Army, General Henry Rawlinson, headed the team of the general. The team of the rest of the people was badly beaten by the team of General Rawlinson. General Rawlinson later fought First World War and commanded the Indian Army as its chief from 1920 to 1925. Civil and military officers also played golf matches at this turf as opponents. The visitors like you and me could also play golf at the golf course by paying a small fee of money to the chowkidar who was in charge of the place. The officials deposited their clubs after playing the games in a thatched house located adjoining the golf course. In 1907 and 8, the British government wanted to acquire Naldehra along with other adjoining places to create a settlement for the Europeans. Prince Rana of Koti estate, Raghubir Chand, owned these all areas. Rana said that he was not comfortable with the design of the British and he opposed this idea tooth and nail. The British realized that it was tough executing this plan and this step could have provoked a rebellion from the princely estates in Shimla and Himachal Pradesh. So they abandoned this whole idea and Naldehra was allowed to be continued with the local prince. With the Scottish-like look, the golf course in Naldehra is today one of the oldest golf courses in India. Located at an altitude of 2,200 meters, it is spread in a vast area of more than 4,000 square yards. Initially, it was only a 9-hole course and a public path crossed the green turf from somewhere in the middle. But later, the authorities closed this path, providing the public an alternative road and alternative path. And the golf course was expanded to make it 18-hole golf course with 16 greens and 18 tees. Today, Himachal Tourism Department controls this beautiful, open, flat space surrounded by tall, evergreen Devdar trees. Thank you very much for watching this video.